Hello crochet friends, welcome to Crazy Cool Crochet. This is Sylvia, and in this project we are working on this crochet pullover or crochet sweater featuring this really cool surface chains that is worked up in skinny little stripes. It's a really cool graphic. Now I've used black. As you can see here, it just takes a very little bit of yarn. And if you've never worked with surface chains, you are going to love this. It's very, very simple. But as you can see, it really packs a punch. The materials that we're using is a number 4 medium weight yarn. This is super inexpensive. You can use any number 4, that's fine. Scissors, a yarn needle, a measuring tape might come in handy, and the hook that we're using, a crochet hook size H or a 5mm. Now I usually save this for last where I give my thank yous, but by then everybody's already gone. So I'm going to catch you at the beginning. If I could get you all to please watch to the end. Watch the video to the end. That helps my YouTube channel tremendously. If you give a thumbs up, if you like the project, if you comment down below in the white space, all these little things help tremendously. Oh, and of course subscribe. That would be cool. This tutorial is going to be for a size small to medium. For larger sizes, please head over to the blog crazycoolcrochet.com. And of course the Etsy pattern will have the larger sizes as well. The links for the blog and my Etsy shop will be in the description area below, in the white space below the video. So make sure that you open that up. I am going to start this tutorial a little bit differently. Rather than start instructions with the foundation chain and showing you how to do a single crochet and showing you stitch by stitch, we are going to assume that you know your basic stitches. And these are all just single crochets. Okay, so we started with a chain of 61 for your foundation chain, 6-1 for size small, medium. Then you enter your first single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Do not count the chain on the hook. Skip the first chain. In the second chain, enter your first single crochet, and then work single crochets in each chain all the way across for a total of 60 single crochets. Chain 1 turn and continue with the count of 60. And you will stay on that count through row 24. That's where we are here. All right, now we have completed 24 rows. We are going to start shaping the neckline. So this is the shoulder area. This is the neckline. So on row 25, I completed 54 stitches, 5-4. So I entered the 54th single crochet. Now I'm going to turn. No chain, just turn. We're going to start decreasing. For row 26, we're going to skip that very first space for another decrease, and single crochet in the next space, and then single crochet in each space to the end. At the end of this row, you will chain 1 and turn and continue with the single crochets until we get to the end, and we will decrease again. At the end of this row, we will have 53 single crochets. At the end of row 27, we're going to stay with the count of 53. So there's 52, and here I'm going to enter 53. Now turn, no chain, just turn. And now once again, we're going to skip the first space for another decrease. And start your single crochet in the next space and single crochet across the row for 52 single crochets. So when we get to the end of this row, chain 1 and turn and continue across the row and stay on the count of 52. We will stay with the count of 52 through row 40. Now we're on row 41, and we're going to start increasing again. So there's the neckline taking shape. So now we're going to start coming back up. So here I've entered number 51. There's 52. And now we increase to 53. So we enter 2 single crochets into that last space. And then chain 1 and turn. Now in row 42 we're going to increase again. So enter 2 single crochets in that first space. 1, 2. And then keep going across. 3, 4, 5. So at the end of this row, row 42, we will be at 54 single crochets. At the end of row 43, we entered number 54. Now we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Okay, so what we're doing here is working our way back up to match that. Okay, so this will give us our 60 stitches that we started with. So we've got 54. We chained 7. Now we are going to turn this a little bit so that the chain is facing you. Skip the first space. Single crochet into the next. And each chain. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so turn your work so that you've got your row going the correct way. Okay, so here's the 6 stitches, and then over here is the 54. Okay, so now enter a single crochet right into that next space. So now that's 7, 8, 9, 10. And when you get to the end of the row, you should be at 60 single crochets. So let me turn this so you have a different visual. Okay, so here's where we are. So there's the one shoulder, there's the completed neckline, and now we're working our way back this way. And now we are on 60 stitches again. So now you will continue working row after row. So we would have worked for a total of 66 rows, counting from the first row, 66 total rows. And of course, this is how it would be worn. So you can see how the single crochets going up and down have a really cool texture, really nice look. Now let's work on the back, which is very much the same, except the neck shaping is a little bit more shallow. So here we work the back panel exactly the same as the front panel through row 24. And then to start the neck shaping on row 25, we worked for 57 single crochets, and then we turn. Row 26, we skip the first stitch, single crochet in the remaining stitches for 56 single crochets. Then you chain 1 and turn. Row 27, you work evenly for 56 single crochets. Then you turn without chaining. Row 28, you skip the first stitch for another decrease, then single crochet in each stitch across for 55 single crochets total, chain 1 and turn. Then for row 29 through 40, you're going to work evenly for the 55 single crochets. Then you chain 1 and turn, and we will start the increases. Now on row 41, we did our first increase. So first we worked for 54 single crochets, then in the last stitch, you enter 2 single crochets for a total of 56 single crochets. Then you chain 1 and turn, and row 42 you enter 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then single crochet across for a total of 57 single crochets, chain 1 and turn. And row 43 you will work even for the 57 single crochets. Then with your last single crochet you chain 4, and then you turn carefully. This is where we have that little straggler chain sticking out, and then we're going to skip the first chain and work the next 3 chains of single crochet in each of those for 3 single crochets, and then keep coming across the row. At that point you will be looking like this. So you'll have your chain, your 3 single crochets, then you keep working, and you will have a total of 60 single crochets. Then for rows 45 through 66, you will work even for each row for the count of 60 single crochets. And that will complete your back panel. Now the back panel is completed, so now we're going to do the sleeves. The sleeves are worked exactly the same as the front and back panel. We start with a chain of 47, and then we just work single crochets for 46 single crochets for every row. It's just a straight panel, no increasing, no decreasing. And we work for 47 total rows. So as with the front and back panel, we work this way, and it will be worn this way. The number of chains in the foundation row determines the length of the sleeve, because we're going to turn this around, so then this becomes the length. And the number of rows determines the width. So now this design is meant to have wider, boxier sleeves. Before we do any seaming of the shoulder or the sides, we are going to add the striping with the crochet surface chains. For the striping, we are working with the right side of the panel facing us. And we know this is the right side because this is the tail from the foundation row. So this was the foundation row, so that makes this the right side. We're going to start at the bottom on the left side of the panel. So we're going to start by creating a slip knot, just as you normally would. Now we're working for the first stripe into the 3rd row. So there's 1, 2, 3. We're bringing the hook from the top into that very first space right by the edge. The yarn is brought in from underneath. So grab the loop, bring it in through that space. Now we will be working into the next space. You can see it right there. So insert the hook and make sure, this is crucial for the all the striping, that you don't make the loops too tight. Okay, so make it comfortably loose. Insert the hook into the next space. Grab the yarn, bring it through for a chain or a slip stitch, whatever you want to call it. Pull it up. Now right into the very next space. Insert the hook again, grab the yarn, pull it up. You're creating your chains right there. Right into the next space, insert the hook, grab the yarn, pull it up, right through that loop, and keep working into every space. Just make sure that you stay on the correct row. so that you keep it nice and straight and even. Okay, insert the hook into the very next space, grab the yarn, pull it through. That's it. See how easy that is? We've got perfect little chains. It's going to make a perfect little stripe. So just keep going all the way up to the shoulder. When you get to the last space, you'll be right at the top edge of the shoulder. Just do a last chain. I'll do an extra one for good measure because I'm going to tie this off and knot it. Leave a good sized tail. We're going to weave everything in at the end. Now pull the yarn through and squeeze it down. And we can weave that through, going through the black. Just get that tail out of the way. So we'll be weaving it through the back, knotting it for good measure. That's me. If you don't like knots, do it however you prefer. Now let's do the rest of it. Here's the first set of stripes. And let me give you the row counts where we entered, where we started. So the first one, we started on row 3. Keep in mind, we were working this way, remember? So when I'm counting the rows, I'm counting this way. So it's 1, 2, 3. But of course, we're working the surface chains this way. Okay, so row 3 for the first stripe, row 23 for the second, row 45 for the third, row 63 for the fourth. For the next set of stripes, we are working this way. So you're turning the panel with the single crochet rows going this way, and we're working the stripes, the surface chains going up this way. So now the count for where we started and where we enter the yarn. On the first one, we're going to start counting from the edge. We're going to enter the hook in between the 16th and 17th single crochet, and we work our way up. So every now and again, stop and count. Make sure you're in the right space so that you're not going crooked. For the next stripe, we enter the hook between the 17th and 18th. So counting from the first single crochet from this first stripe, so count 17 and enter between 17 and 18 and work your way up. And then for the third one, start counting the first single crochet after the stripe, and we're going to enter between the 18th and 19th single crochets. Now here's a little suggestion. When this was all done, I noticed that on this side, I worked all the way to the edge. But on this side, where you start, it leaves an empty or an unworked space. So all I did, so that it looks like this, all the way to the edge. Okay, so you're going to grab your tail. So make sure you're leaving tails to weave in, and it's going to come in handy for this little trick. Take the hook from the top, insert it, grab the yarn, bring it up, grab the yarn again, and you're trying to create a chain. Okay, that one came out a little bit messy. That's because I'm working over my camera and having a hard time with this. But that's the gist of it. Go through the top, grab the yarn, pull it up, create a chain. And now, here, this one is nice and neat right here. So now you've got yourself a chain that looks just like the rest of them, and you went all the way to the edge, just like on the other side. Now, since the back panel was the same number of rows and stitches, you'll just be able to repeat what you just did on the front for the back. For the sleeves, we did this first stripe, entering the hook in row 13. And again, remember, this is how we worked it. So I'm counting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. Then the second one goes in row 33. And now for the other stripes, this first one is entered between the 14th and 15th single crochet. So again, we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So between 14 and 15. And then the second one is entered in the stitches between 18 and 19. And this is how the sleeve will lay on your arm. So your hand is down here. Shoulder is up there. There's still a drop shoulder to meet up. Now you would have seamed at the shoulders. Wrong side's facing you, of course, and I used a yarn needle and thread. Just seamed across the top there, on both sides, of course, and then you will take the sleeve, find the center of the sleeve. I used contrasting yarn as a stitch marker. You will place the center of the sleeve top to match up with the shoulder seam, and then you will seam along here. And you can use a yarn needle and thread, and I use a whip stitch. Do the same on the other side, and be sure that you have got this positioned correctly so that the rows of single crochets are going like that. After you have seamed the sleeve to the body at the shoulder, then you will seam the side and the bottom of the sleeve. Make sure the stripes are lining up so that it looks really nice and neat on the right side. Now let's work on the collar. Now you're going to attach the yarn to the center back neck area. So this is the back, right side facing you. Attach the yarn with a chain, and then chain 14 more so that you have a total of 15 chains. This will determine the depth of the neck, the collar. Okay, so now that you've got your chain, turn it towards you and single crochet in the first chain and in each chain down the line. So the last chain that you entered would have been the first chain that you started with. Now skip this very next space and go into the next space for a slip stitch. Now turn that row of single crochets towards you, and you will enter a single crochet in each single crochet across. And you're just doing regular single crochets, not back loop only. This is not a ribbing. When you get to the end, chain one turn and do 14 single crochets again. After you enter that 14th single crochet, once again you're going to skip that first little space and enter a slip stitch into the next space. Turn this and continue with your 14 single crochets, chain one turn, 14 single crochets, and continue that around. All right, a couple of little things before we finish this off. I actually ended up going back and shortening my collar. For my short neck, the 14 single crochets was much too long. So I brought it down so that my foundation chain, or my original chain, started with 10, and then I did 9 single crochets. So adjust this as you need to. And as you're going along, feel free, use your discretion to skip more than one space if you need to, so that the collar is not bunching up. Now let's finish this off. When we come back to where we started, try to end so that you are on this end of the row of the single crochet rows. And then enter your last slip stitch where you began, in the space where you began. Now we need to close this up. So we're going to do this with the hook. You can tie this off and use the yarn needle and thread, going on the wrong side of course, and use the whip stitch. I'm going to pull up the loop just to get it out of the way. Put these together. So you'll be working on the wrong side. Grab your yarn, and now you can do slip stitches to join the two ends. I like to go right to the edge just to give it a nice clean line. And then chain one. You can cut off the yarn and weave that end through the seam. And there she is, the completed crochet pullover with surface chain stripes. So hopefully you like this design. If you do, please thumbs up, subscribe, let me know what you think of this, and we will see you on the next project. Thank you so much for watching.